let's dive in. I've really got a lot that I want to talk to you guys about today. So just what to expect. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the system's origin, because I need to give you the carrot and I also need to give you the stick. Funnily enough, because like honestly, I want you guys, when you're done with this, I want you to go and apply some stuff and not say, oh, that was a great webinar, and then you just go and forget about it. It's very important, and I'll explain to you why in just a second. And the highlight of the day in many ways is, well, what's the simple little 3-step system? And it is quite simple, but it does rely on us having our profiles looking good, because the profile really is what drives everything, as you'll see in just a second. And then at the end, the question is going to be, okay, well, that's great. How do I apply it? And there's a couple of ways that I'm going to, that I can help you in order to do that. So let's dive in. Normally I would tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm going to be fairly brief today because I've got a lot to tell you to cram into this, but this is important for today as well. So long story short, I'm a chartered accountant, but I lost my business way back in 2011, and it goes back to that 2008 recession where we took a lot of carrots. We lost some very key clients, and being a bunch of accountants, we didn't know how to replace them. And so after not getting paid a salary for 8 months, I literally had to walk away from a business that I'd spent literally 10 years building. And it was after that I got involved in online marketing, and I've published a number of books, and one of them, the very first one I did, was on sales funnels. And so I'd started to build these online sales funnels because I was fascinated with this idea that you can build an online sales funnel, get people to give you money, and then only after that you have to speak to them. So that's the accountant in me speaking. Thankfully, things have progressed a lot, and I did a lot of that, up front in the early days. And then what happened was LinkedIn reared its ugly head, and actually LinkedIn gave me I think the technical term is a snot clap. It really was a little bit of a problem. And the problem comes from something that I've called social stupidity. And when you are researching somebody and you type their name into Google or to Bing, any of the search engines, what you've probably seen literally 99% of the time is that the LinkedIn profile is the first result that actually gets returned. And that's not a mistake. That's because of the way that the Google and the Bing and the Yahoo algorithms are created. So yeah, it's not the Facebook page or your website or the products and services that you've created. It's the LinkedIn profile. So this can be good or it can be bad, right? So social stupidity, this is where it's bad. A little bit later on, I'm going to show you why it's good, but for now, I'm going to show you why it's bad. So what happens with social stupidity? If you look at that guy's picture, right, you can see that like social media has got into his head and has sucked out his brain, and he has lost the ability to think. Okay, that's what social stupidity is. Because what happens is people Google you, your LinkedIn profile comes up. Now, if the LinkedIn profile is bad, or today, even if it's not great, it's sort of so-so. What happens is people look at the profile and they judge you. You see, it's like, oh, that profile sucks. Therefore, you must be a terrible service provider, right? Terrible accountant, terrible financial advisor, terrible lawyer, terrible whatever. It's like, excuse me, how do you come to this conclusion? No, my profile needs work. That's all that has to happen here. But unfortunately for social stupidity, that's what happens. And so, of course, defending the human race, said this is impossible. We are not that socially stupid. But turns out we are. So what happened was I was working with one of my clients, and we built out an amazing website, and we put some funnels out. So he phones me up. He says, listen, China, he says, this is a problem. He says, I am paying for a listing in a directory, and I am finding that they are telling me that I'm getting hits on the directory, but you know what? Nobody is phoning me. He says, why is my phone not ringing? What's happening? So I said, I don't know. So we went and we looked at it, and we saw that the directories had 2 links, right? So the first link was actually out to his website. So that was fine, right? We'd fixed that. It had great funnels on it. It was working perfectly. The second one was to his LinkedIn profile, which was, let's just say, terrible. Okay, it wasn't a very good profile. And at this stage, I wasn't even into LinkedIn. I had no intention of being the LinkedIn guy, but I figured, well, I don't really have an answer, so let me go and fix the LinkedIn profile, which we did. So we fixed the profile, and literally the following week, the phone started to ring. man, was this like someone had hit me in the head with a sledgehammer. It's because I had to get over my own insecurities and my own prejudices, I suppose, about social media, because the fact of the matter is, like, whether you like it or not, it's a thing. And when that actually happened, the thing that really staggered me the most was I realized that you're losing clients. Because how many clients had my client lost because of the fact that he didn't have a good LinkedIn profile? And so what I did was I went and I upgraded the LinkedIn profiles of all my other clients, and every single one of them improved. Their results improved after that. And so that was a big lesson for me. And that's the thing I want you guys to take away from today. Like, social stupidity, I promise you, is costing you clients, right? Because think about it. Somebody goes to your profile, they look at the profile, they judge, social stupidity comes into play. They're not going to phone you up and say, hey, Joe, guess what? Your profile sucks. You should fix it, No, that's not what they do. They just bounce away and they go to your competitors. So if you learn nothing else from today, please take away that social stupidity is actually costing you clients. Okay, so take today seriously and just implement it at the end. That being said, okay, that's the stick. Well, the stick's out the way. Now let's get to the carrot. So what's the three-step system? And quite frankly, there's a lot of ways on LinkedIn to apply this, but LinkedIn really, the entire process of generating leads and clients on LinkedIn comes down to this in one form or another. So obviously the first thing that you need to do is you need to create the profile, and that's what the bulk of today is looking at. And quite importantly, when you look at that, there's a couple of pieces that you really need before you actually create the profile. There's this idea of the niche, which really is just the group of people that are best suited to buy your particular product and service, whatever that happens to be. And then obviously we need to look at some of the problems that you're solving. And ideally you want to find the single problem that you, the single biggest problem, I should say, that you solve. Then the next thing that we're going to do is we send out just 100 connection requests a week, right? Because currently that's the allowance that LinkedIn gives us. And so what that is typically going to mean for you is you'll find on average, some of you will do better, some of you will do worse, but you should get a minimum of 30% of those 100 people accepting your connection requests. So typically it's going to be somewhere between 30 and 60. So what that means for you in reality, right, is that you have just got yourself somewhere between 130 to 260 new leads, and they're good leads, as you'll see in a minute. They're leads that you have personally handpicked, if you like. So you've got these new leads that have come into your business where you have the ability to speak to them. And so as we're sending out these connection requests, this third part is the best part. And this is now based on the fact that you've got a good profile, by the way, right? People are going to go, when you send a connection request, they go and they look at your profile. And if they like your profile and they happen to be in the market, and there's always 1 to 3%, and sometimes even up to 5% of people that are in the market for what you are selling, whatever that happens to be, whether it's financial services, accounting services, LinkedIn services, hotels, cars, hot dogs, doesn't matter, whatever it is, right? Any business, there's always that 1 to 3 and sometimes up to 5% of people that are looking to buy. So what's going to happen if those people are actually actively looking and they like what's going on in your profile, they will in fact send you a message, right? So they accept your connection request and they start the conversation where they actually ask to have a meeting with you. So this is a great system. It actually is generated just by you sending out those connection requests, but they actually start the conversation with you. So that being said, okay, how do we put the system together that makes this all work? And I've got a simple little 3-step system for you, which has got nine parts to it, but all I've done is I've broken up each section into 3 separate sections. So the first is planning. So we're going to talk a little bit about strategy. In other words, why are you on LinkedIn? Because there's actually different reasons and different things that we want to get out of it. And based on why you're on LinkedIn, that's going to affect the rest of your profile. Then obviously we need to work out who your ideal client is. That was that niche piece that we spoke about a bit earlier. And we've got to find a message. So the message that you want to find is the key message, like the biggest problem that you're going to solve for that ideal client that you've identified. Then we get into the creation of the profile, right? So this is where the action actually happens. I'll get into this. There's 5 key pieces. We'll cover all 5 of them, and we'll build out a great profile. And then we get into that last piece, right? So once we've got a great profile and we know exactly who we're looking for, then we You simply jump onto LinkedIn or Sales Navigator for that matter. We can find anybody on LinkedIn. That's the great thing about it because of the way that the filters are structured, and I'll show you what that looks like just now. And then, of course, we just send the connection request, right? And what we found is if we send 2 messages, we send a connection request, and a little bit later, thanks for connecting message, we get about half of the meetings that we get when we include our whole system, which we're not going through today. But that should generate you quite comfortably 1 to 2 meetings every single week. And that stacks up, right? And that's for doing very little. It's like having a profile and sending 100 connection requests a week. All of us can do that. It really doesn't take a lot of time. And then obviously the last step there is to have the consultation where you just listen to your client's issues, and if you can solve them, then you go ahead and you do that. So let's talk a little bit about strategy, because this is very, very important. So typically there's 3 reasons that people are on LinkedIn. The first one is because they're looking for a job. The second one is because they are trying to position themselves as an expert for one reason or another, right? So you're taking that authority positioning on LinkedIn. So there are a number of people that's what they do. It's very important to them to do that. For the bulk of us, it's probably going to be the third part, where what we want to do is we want to generate leads from LinkedIn. Now, if you are looking for a job, you're on the wrong webinar. You should leave now, right? This is not for that. And when you creating a profile for a job, it's very different to what we're doing here. You may or may not be looking for expert positioning. It might be part of what you're wanting to do, and that's fine. But if expert positioning, authority positioning is the key driver for you, then you just need to apply what I'm going to teach you today a little bit differently. And there'll be certain parts of today where I'll point that out to you. And then obviously there's the last part where we're generating leads, and you can see this fits into that little 3-step system, right? Because we pick the right people, we send the connection request, they reach out to us, we are generating leads. That is really what's happening. So if we look at the profile itself, there's really 2 ways to get people to our profile. The one is by using our little system. So what happens is we send that connection request to people. The logical question is, well, who is this person sending me a connection request? And then, of course, they go and they look at your profile. So that's the one way we do it. The second way, of course, is where somebody has a problem. Maybe they're looking for a financial advisor, and so they'll go into LinkedIn and they'll type in financial advisor in Johannesburg, for example. LinkedIn will give a bunch of search results, and then they'll click on one of those search results, and that's how they get to your profile. So in the first instance where we are making the effort, we call that outbound, right? Where we are essentially driving people to our profile. And of course, we've got inbound. That's where we've still done the work, right? Because we've put the content out there. People are finding us through that content and are coming to us through those means. Now, there's a couple of fundamental differences when you look at that. So let's have a look at what those differences are. So how is this all initiated? In other words, how do they get there? So obviously inbound is external user search, right? They type a search into LinkedIn or Google for that matter, believe it or not, because you can go from Google to LinkedIn. From outbound, that's just simple. That's us sending a connection request, as you saw. What's the prospect's mindset as that's happening? Well, if they are actually typing something into a search engine, they're actually looking for you, right? They have a problem. They are actively looking to solve it. The other way around, where we are sending these connection requests, well, we're actually interrupting people, right? We're interrupting their day. They're sitting on LinkedIn, and suddenly they get this connection request from us, and now they've got to make a decision. Are they going to accept it or not? Are they ready to buy or not? Well, the inbound guys much more so, right? Because that's why they typed that into LinkedIn, because they're looking. On the other side, with outbound, we don't know, right? As I told you, it's probably going to be somewhere between 1% and 5% that are looking. That's why consistency wins the day here. It's very, very low hanging fruit though. So we've just got to hope that they're in the market, but we've got to do everything else right in order to stack the deck in our favor. What's the goal? Obviously, on inbound, it's to be found in search, right? So that will affect some of the stuff that you put on your LinkedIn profile. For outbound, we don't really care about search, to be quite honest with you, because we pick the people and we send the connection request. So we need to optimize the connection requests in order to get the best results. What's the outcome? Well, when we're talking about inbound, we want to show them that we can actually meet their needs, because you want them to take action, right? They're looking. So, hey, we can help you. buy. On the other hand, for outbound, that's a little bit different, right? Because we initiated the transaction or the conversation. So we need to convince them that actually we are valuable people that they should connect with, because we're starting off that conversation. And then lastly, what sort of language are we going to use? Well, if you're inbound, you can be more direct, right? You can make the sale because they're looking for you. Outbound's very different, right? It's all about conversations and building relationships. And that's why we don't send a connection message, and the minute that somebody connects, you say, hey, do you want to buy my stuff? Again, that's not the best way to do it. We'll talk about that later. So when you've got your strategy worked out, you go from being ignorant, because like, what on earth do I put on my profile, to actually being enlightened. So hopefully that's where you're at the moment, where you're a little bit enlightened. So you're going to pick one of those two, and based on that, just put that in the back of your mind for now, and let's dive into the next piece. So let's talk a little bit about the ideal client. Probably the most difficult thing to do. Most people get this wrong, or they don't think about this and get it right. But really what you want to do is you want to dominate your niche. That is genuinely on LinkedIn. That's the best thing you can do. And don't get intimidated by this word niche, right? Niche can mean anything. Essentially what a niche is, it's the group of people that you are going to service, right? It's the group of people that you can help the most, that are most likely to buy what it is you're selling. So it's actually quite logical when you sit down and think about it, but you must sit down and think about it. Like the worst thing you can do is say, oh, everybody is my target market. Yeah, I know you can sell to everybody, but I promise you it is much harder to sell to everybody than a specific group of people. So let's look at a couple of ways that you can pick a niche, right? So the first and the most logical one is via industry. Industry is really cool. And the reason is because when somebody creates a LinkedIn profile, they have to select an industry. There's no choice. They have to select an industry. They can only select one, and it has to come from a specific list. So you can see there's some examples. So if I'm looking for accountants or financial advisors or pharmaceutical, people in the pharmaceutical industry, or retailers or wholesalers, guess what? There's a list for that. They're easy to find when you look at it from an industry perspective. Now, typically, a lot of you on this call, because most of you will be from the financial space, you're not going to necessarily pick an industry. You're probably going to look more at one of these other two options. The first one is job title. So you might be looking for something like chief executives, right? Or sales managers, or pharmaceutical reps, or owners, partners, directors, where you can give a specific title because that title indicates what that person does, and maybe you sell a product or service or have a solution that's going to be solved by that. And the one that probably most people use is demographics. So a great example of that would be, okay, I want to speak to business owners who have been running their business for 10 years or more, who've got between 51 and 200 employees, who may be aged between, say, 30 and 55, or 30 and say maybe 60, and then maybe they're within a 50-kilometer radius of my office, right? So you can see that there's different ways to pick a niche, and you can stack them as well, right? So you might take, let's say I'm looking for accountants or financial advisors, and then I use that as part of it, and then I stack on, right? If I go to job title, I say, okay, well, I want owners or partners, and then speaking of the demographics, I want, let's say, that group of demographics that you see on the screen now. So the more of these things you stack, the better it is. So the best advice I can give you is the more you know about your ideal client, the easier this becomes, right? So you must pick a niche, right? Identify who you want to speak to. And then once you've done that, the next thing you're going to do is you just work out, well, what are the problems that they have? And you find the biggest problem, right, that they have, and then you're going to solve the biggest problem. And that's the piece we're going to speak about next. But once you've identified your ideal client, you've got your niche knocked down, this takes you away from that shotgun approach, right, where you just take anybody, everybody, you don't know where the next client's coming from, your business just grows, to being very specific. Right now you can be laser targeted, you know who you want to get, and you can go and literally get them on demand, like maybe 1 or 2 appointments a week, for example. Speaking of the message, it's like, okay, well, what do we put on our profile? What are we going to say? So what you need to realize, right, is that the message, or LinkedIn calls it the headline, I call it the magic message. You might call it your value proposition, or your unique selling proposition, your USP. There's a couple of things that are very important here, right? You've got to stand out from the crowd. that goes without saying. You're going to introduce yourself. You're going to describe what you do, and the impediment here, or the restriction, is 220 characters, right? So you've got 220 characters to do that, and you need to realize that this little piece of text, this little 220 characters, is the most important piece of text on your entire profile. Why? Because it comes up everywhere, right? Look at that. When people who may know you get recommended by LinkedIn, any search, right? Google search, LinkedIn search comes up there. Job applications, although we're not covering it yet, comes up there. Likes, shares, posts, messages, recommendations, invitations to connect. Anytime people see you on LinkedIn, they're going to see your profile picture, and they're going to see your headline, or certainly the first part of your headline. So very, very important that you get that right and that it resonates with people. So how do we create a good magic message or a good headline? Well, to be honest with you, there's a lot of ways to do it. So what I'm telling you is not the absolute way, but I find this to be the most effective way, right? I just call it the magic promise. And I like to phrase it in terms of a question, because a human mind has to answer a question. I can't say no, right? And so the question looks like this. If I could guarantee you, and then the first part of the magic promise is a result I know you really want, in a specified amount of time, would you be interested? So here's a couple of examples. If I could guarantee you a minimum of 2 new clients every month, would you be interested? Or if I could show you how to save up to 15% on your tax bill, when in the next 6 months, would you be interested? Right. So just essentially tell people what you do. That's what this really boils down to. And when you have your messaging dialed in like that, it takes you from being invisible to really being totally irresistible. You can have an totally irresistible to your ideal clients. All right, enough silliness. Let's get that out the way. Now we've handled the first part, right? The planning part is done. And I promise you, this is the hardest part of the whole system, right? Now that you've got that done, now it's actually time, because now and only now have you got the tools and you know what you got to put into your profile. So let's have a look at what goes on. So let's talk about the introductory section of the profile. So what you'll see is that there are 5 key sections to your LinkedIn profile, right? LinkedIn, there's over 20 sections in total, but there's 5 that move the needle. And if you only did these 5, you're golden, right? You do the others as and when, but these 5 are critical. You've got to do them. So as you can see, the first one is our banner, and this is the one opportunity that LinkedIn gives us to stand out. So we can be a little bit different. And on the banner, what I like to do is I like to have a visual so that it's representative of what we do, and then to have some text that just calls out our ideal clients so that they know that they're in the right place, because that's generally the first thing that people are going to see. Then, of course, you've got your profile picture. Again, this has got to be your professional profile picture. It's your window to the world, and most of us will use the same profile picture across all profiles on our website and our email signature. So make sure that it's good. We'll talk about that in just a second. And then, of course, your magic message, which we've just discussed. So your headline, the most important text on your entire profile. I'll repeat that. So let's have a closer look at this. So the banner. The banner's job really is to establish your brand and literally to draw people in immediately and to let them know they're in the right place. It's very, very simple. So what I like to do is to call out my target market, because remember, we've selected them very specifically. We sent them a connection request, so we know exactly who they are. Right? It's not rocket science. They get to the profile, they see the banner, and then I want to say to them, listen, this is what I do, and I do it for you. So this is what I do, and this is who I do it for. So I call it the what specialist, the which industry. Very, very simple process. There's a specific size that you can use to create your banner. There it is. And so here's a couple of examples. So it's the what specialist, the which industry or profession. So it might be lead and client generation specialist to the accounting profession, for example. Or you might say, I'm a sales training specialist to the medical profession, or a tax specialist to the motor industry, right? Fill in your own, get creative there. It's just kind of like, this is what I do. That's who I do it for. Let them know they're in the right place. Real simple. Then your profile picture, again, there's a bunch of things you should do and that you shouldn't, but what should you do? This is actually quite simple, really. Try to have a recent headshot. You don't really want people to be speaking to you and saying, not quite what I expected from your LinkedIn profile. So recent headshot. Authenticity is for me is always key, especially with the new rise of AI. People want to know that they're dealing with a real person, right? So it's got to authentically echo who you are. One way to do that is to dress the way that you dress when you speak to your clients. So if you're a suit and tie kind of person, then that's what you should be dressed in your LinkedIn profile. If you're an athlete, you can actually be in a tracksuit. That's perfectly fine, right? But just dress how you dress every single day. Best advice I can give you is have a professional photo taken. The reason being, right, that professional photographers know how to pose you. They know how to get the lighting right. They're just better at it than we are. If not, then obviously just get somebody to take a nice picture of yourself with a really, really good camera. So now the cameras on our phones are pretty good. But if you can afford the money, do the professional thing. I promise it's worth it. If not, just have a clear background behind you. So don't be standing in a party environment or have like leaves and other stuff behind you, because what you're wanting to do is to accentuate your face. You want people to be able to see the expression in your eyes, etc. You want to be able to take up all the real estate. So you see the little semicircle, take up the whole circle, which means it's a headshot, right? It's not the full body shot. Worst case, you'll show a little bit of shoulders, but show use as much of that real estate as you can, and for goodness sake, smile, right? People want to deal with friendly people, so just make sure you got a good profile pic. And then, of course, we've got our magic message, which we've spoken about ad nauseum. Well, what I didn't tell you guys earlier, sorry, is that I will give you these slides. Right? I will send these slides out to everybody, so don't like panic, because I know you a lot of stuff. So don't panic to write everything down like crazy. Just sit back and chill and listen. So that's why I'm putting this slide in, even though I've already covered it. Great example for you. If I could give you a result I know you 100% really want in a specified amount of time, would you be interested? And we looked at those first two examples. Here's another example. So let's say you were a management accountant, and I said to you, look, if I could show you how I generated 30 new management consulting clients paying 10,000 Rand every month within a 45-day period, would you be interested? So you can see whatever it is that you're saying, just be very specific. What is the biggest problem that you solve for people? Right, then the next section, once you've kind of got through the introduction section, is the About Us section. And you can see it's quite high up on the profile. Now, what I want to explain to you here is that what LinkedIn has done with the LinkedIn profile is they've looked at website best practice across the world, right? And they've taken all of that and they've incorporated it into the LinkedIn profile. So I've got to tell you something. The LinkedIn profile is actually quite brilliant. You may not really appreciate it, but when you start to understand it, like I do, because I've studied it intimately, there is nothing we cannot do on our LinkedIn profile that the biggest multinational can do on their website. Like, the profile is amazing, right? So if you think about the About section, compare the LinkedIn profile to what you see on websites, right? So most websites, when people go to the website, the first free choice that they have, and this is globally, right? The first free choice that people have, the first click, they go to the About section. Right. So LinkedIn knows this, and that's why they have created the About section. And that first word About, you can't change that. So the About section on LinkedIn does the same job as the About section on a web page. So if you think about it that way, then it's going to make a little bit more sense to you, right? Oh, we only have 2,600 characters. That is that's quite a challenge, as we will see, but we can make do. What LinkedIn does is it forces us to be really, really succinct in terms of what we're doing. So what do we need to put on our summary? Well, a summary is because it's the About section, it's actually not about you, oddly enough, right? I know that sounds crazy because your name's on the profile. No, there's a little bit about you, but really it's actually all about your client. So they want to know, well, who are you? What is it specifically that you do, and how exactly are you going to help me? And they want to know why, right? If you can answer the why questions, and I'll talk about that in just a second, that's the thing that really drives the needle. It also starts to build the relationship. So I think it's the most important section, obviously, other than your headline. I think it's the most important section on your profile. And if you want to think about it this way, you need to answer the questions that people have got before you can make a sale. So it's kind of like a sales page, but it's a cool sales page, right? Now, what I've done for you is I've created a template. So how this template came to be, just so you know, is I have studied thousands. I have looked at thousands literally of about sections and LinkedIn profiles. I then went and I studied all of the top performers, and I said, okay, what is on there? And I've got lists, and you'll be amazed at the amount of stuff that comes. But what I did is I just analyzed everything, and I said, what is the main stuff that everybody has? And this is it. So if you just use this template, you should be fine, right? So the first thing is to have a little bit of an opening hook, because, you know, in the about section, you as I'll show you in just a second, you don't see the whole thing. You have to click a see more button. So this is the bit that just stops the scroll. And then you want to have your value proposition. So I think it's very important for people to, if they're going to click on your about section to read about it, like they want to know what they're clicking on, right? So this first piece, you really have to grab their attention. That's why I'm a big proponent of that. Then we're going to talk about the why story. We'll talk about that in a bit more detail in just a minute, as I explained to you. Then you want to expand on your value proposition. So in number 2, you're just giving them the highlight, because you've got to get them to click. But then once they've clicked, now you can tell them everything that they need to know about dealing with you, right? So think about what are the logical questions that people have that you need to answer. I'll give you some examples of that in a minute. Then the next question you need to answer is, well, why me? Right? They're going to say, well, how do I know that you're credible? How do I know you can actually do this? So there's some credibility builders that we can use. And then if we've got space, number 6, unfortunately, often falls by the wayside because of that 2,600 character limit. But if you've got space, just drop in a line or two about yourself, because you're just telling people, hey, this is the real person behind whatever it is that you do. Give them 1 or 2 ideas of who you are. And then you must have a call to action, right? You're doing this for a reason. What is the reason? You've got to tell people what you want them to do. So let's have a look at that in a bit more detail. So typically, I like to take the hook and the value proposition statement, because that's our little problem. That stupid little see more over there. If they don't click that see more, they don't see the rest of our masterpiece. And I genuinely believe that this is the most important part of your profile, right? It starts to build relationships. It starts to show people that there's empathy and that you understand them. And this is why they accept connection requests. This is why they accept meetings. And this is why they let you give them proposals. So very, very important. So as you can see there, I'll just give you my example. So the opening hook, I'm just trying to stop the scroll. So the opening hook is, I lost my audit practice because I didn't know how to generate clients. So because of the target market that I'm speaking to, and because I'm talking about client generation, that makes sense. And it's like, oh, he lost his practice. That's kind of hectic, right? So it jolts you a bit. And then I get into the actual value proposition, and I play the one off the other. And I say, so that's why today I help accountants and financial advisors to generate their own leads and clients every month from LinkedIn without posting content, paying for ads, or buying appointments, right? So if you are interested in that and that's your thing, you will click the see more. If you're not, I actually don't care if you click the see more or not. You may as well bounce off the profile, in fact, because you're the wrong person. It doesn't help me, or it doesn't help you, right? Now, the next thing is the why story, right? So let's have a look at the why story. So the why story is going to do a whole bunch of stuff. It's going to start off giving a little bit of relatability, because people want to know who is the person behind the business person. It's not the financial advisor, it's Joe. Who is Joe, right? It's also going to give them a little bit of insight into you, into how you work, into your values and everything. And again, into you as a person. And it's got to be relevant, right? So think about the value proposition that you created, right? The most important text. And when you're creating your why story, you want your why story to substantiate whatever it is, whatever that promise is that you made. So you make it relevant. And then you can see there's the 2 why questions at the bottom. So answer for people, because they want to know, well, why do you do what you do? Yeah. Is there a passion there, or is it just like, well, I just fell into it? Right? Give them a good reason why you do it. And then more specifically, why have you chosen to solve the particular problem you're solving for the particular niche that you've chosen, right? If you can get that right, it opens everything up. And you can see how people are going to resonate with you when you do that. Next thing is now your expanded value proposition. So there's a whole bunch of stuff you can put in here, right? just think about what people need to know about you before they're going to deal with you. That's all you have to worry about. So, for example, who you can help. You want to agitate the problem. So what you're doing there is you're showing them that you understand their problems. And as marketers, we always make the problem a little bit worse than it is, because we have to push people to action, right? Tell them obviously what it is that you do, and of course how you go about and how you actually do it. And there might be some other things that you find are critical for you. Just put that stuff in, and you'll have a great expanded value proposition. Then we get to the credibility builders. Now, obviously what you're trying to do here is you need to show them that you can actually help them and that they can trust you, because this is a question that people have. They're always going to ask you, how do I know that you're going to not take my money and I'm going to get what I paid for, right? So you have to be able to do that. And there are so many ways to do this, right? There's lots of examples here. You only have to choose one, right? You can choose multiple if you have multiple, and proof, if you like. Social proof is very important to you in your business. But honestly, you just need to choose one so that people know that you're the real deal and that you can help them. And what I find, for professionals, and most of you on this call will be that, financial advisors probably, and accountants. The first one is the one that you'll use the most. So if you tell people, listen, I'm a chartered accountant, I've been in the industry for 20 years, I run my own practice for 12. It's like, do you really need to say much more than that, right? There's a lot that's inherent in there. But you can, if you've got key clients, important clients that are similar to the people that you're servicing, it's like, oh, well, if that client worked with him, he must be quite good. I'll work with him as well. You can do that sort of thing. Results you've achieved, awards, if you've been published anywhere, and testimonials and case studies. These are big, right? If you've got testimonials and case studies from clients, put those in. Those are awesome. Then we get to the personal relatability. Again, this is it's like one or two little lines. It's just to add a little bit of lightness to something that's normally quite serious. So things you can talk about: interests, hobbies. I like Manchester United. Some of you are going to resonate well with it. Others, I'll probably take some abuse, and that's okay, right? Because guess what? It starts conversations and any fun facts that people may know about you. And then the last one, very important, call to action, right? You got to tell them what you want them to do. For most of us, right, the call to action is going to be to book a call, right? If we're looking for leads, that's what we want. But it won't always be that way. So it could be to book a call, as you see. Maybe it's connect on LinkedIn. Some of you might just at the early stage just want to build your connections because you're not quite ready to do something. That's fine. For those of you that are trying to build authority, maybe you've got other platforms. You can see this is one of those places where you would have maybe a different call to action. So you might say, hey, catch my YouTube channel, for example. Or maybe some of you are wanting to build an email list. So you give away a lead magnet. Whatever it is that you want them to do, you put that call to action in. And for goodness sake, just put your contact details there. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I go into LinkedIn and I try to contact people and there's no phone number. Why are you on LinkedIn if you do not tell people how to contact you? Guys, you need to stop that nonsense. Put your contact details on LinkedIn, right? It's very important. People cannot speak to you if you don't. And so doing this, right, this takes you from being unknown in your marketplace to being a total authority rock star in your marketplace, right? So that's when you have a great about section. And then the last piece is your experience section. Now, this one's tricky. Okay, I need to tell you about this. This one can be really, really tricky. When you look at the experience section, there's a few elements that are going on. So on the left-hand side, you see there's the company name and the company logo. So one of the things that LinkedIn asks us to do when we fill out our experience section is to say, well, which company do you work for? And that's logical, right? So you're going to fill that in. But then what happens is that confuses people because they seem to think that the experience section is all about the company. It is not about the company. It is about you. It is about what you can do for your clients as an employee of the company. Please remember this. This is like so fundamental. So if you are one of those people that went to the company and copied and pasted like the marketing stuff off the website and put it here, stop that, go and delete that shit right now and go and tell the people what experience you have as a person, as an individual that can help them. Again, go back to your value proposition, your headline, and substantiate that. Okay, that's like really important that you do that. So if I, again, compare this to the website analogy that we had before. Your experience section is very much like your products and services. Okay, so if you think about how when you go to a website, you check it out, you poke around on the homepage, you probably go to the about section, and then if you like what you've seen, because okay, I think this company's okay, then probably and only then are you going to say, okay, well let's go and see the products and services, and that's what you want to put here. That's what your experience is. It's like the products and services page of your LinkedIn profile. So if that is the case, this is what you should put on there. You only have 2,000 characters. This is a severe limitation. You're really going to struggle. So it's going to be hard to put a lot of stuff on there. But I would do it, and I would do it in this order as well. Right? This is a great order. So the first thing is to describe what the company does or what you do. So if you are the company, fine. If not, you're still describing what you do, right? Not the company. Remember, it's like what you do as an employee of the company or as a practitioner of whatever it is that you do. Simple, like it's just a little 1 or 2 liner. Think of it as a classified ad where you have to pay for every word. So you want to have it as succinct as possible, but you don't want to take words out so that it doesn't make sense. So think about it this way. If somebody had done a search on LinkedIn and they had landed directly on your experience section and hadn't seen anything else, they must still be able to get the value out of it. And when they do that, right, if it's the products and services section on your webpage, think about this for a second. This is the money page, isn't it? This is the page where they're saying to themselves, can you solve this problem? And this is where they're going to go to find whether you can solve that problem. So you tell them what it is that you solve. The next part is now you can be a little bit more specific. So remember when we spoke about choosing the niche, now you can be very specific and say, I specialize in this particular group of people, right? And then you can list your products and services. So for most of you, the first 3, the orange is going to be the appropriate one, where you've got a bunch of products and services that you list, right? Because people are saying, can you write an RA for me? Can you write a will for me? Can you do estate planning? Can you do tax planning? They're looking for that. So just list it. I do boom, 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 and you'll find your 2,000 characters get eaten up very quickly. But if you're in the authority type space, and maybe what you do is a more experiential type of process. Like for me, I'm more of a coach, so I don't have a lot of things that and products that I sell. I've only got 4 or 5. It's more important for me to tell people what it's like to work with me, right? And so think about what makes the most sense for you. Sometimes you can combine those two, but those 2,000 characters often catch you out. And then please put a call to action. Again, not going to be as long as the call to action in the about section because of space. I promise you it just works like this. So what you want to do, just have a phone number and have something, okay? A phone number, an email address, please have something, because I know that you've got a specific section, right, that you can fill out for contact information, but it's really only your first level connections that can access it. And why do you want to make people work hard? If they're on the experience section and they've been through your profile and they're ready, they want to speak to you, it's like, just give them the information right there. Right? This is what makes good profiles, and this is what gets people to actually act. So that is the experience section, and now we've nailed the profile. Right? Those are the 5 key sections in the profile. There's a lot more that's in the profile, but it's not as important. And this is the key thing. It's really not as important in the big scheme of things as these 5 pieces that we've spoken about. Now, the next thing that you're going to do is now you need to move to the point where you book the consultation, right? So now we're getting into the second and third part of our little system. So let's talk a little bit about searching for people. So what are we going to do? The first thing that's important is we want to look at the LinkedIn filters. Now, something that I just want to make you aware of, when you look at LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn has got this massive database. There's over 1 billion people, and just for context, they've got over 11 million, somewhere between 11 and 12 million South Africans alone are on LinkedIn. So it's quite phenomenal at the moment. So they've got this big database, and what they've done is they've created 2 separate products. They've got the one that we're all using, this thing called LinkedIn. It's free and it's pretty good, as you know, but they've also got a couple of paid options. And for us, that people that are generating leads, Sales Navigator is really good. So you've got the basic account, which is limited filters, and then you've got Sales Navigator, which which does two things for you, okay? The first thing it does for you is it gives you access to more filters. So it allows you to be a little bit more specific and granular in your targeting, so you can find people that you might not be able to find on LinkedIn alone. But the other thing that's important is that they allow you to do more transactions. So some of you that have used plain LinkedIn, you get to a point in the month where they say, hey, looks like you're a power user. Tell you what, we give you a choice. Unfortunately, we have to shut you down now, but if you pay us some money and buy Sales Navigator, well, then you can carry on. Otherwise, come back at the 1st of next month and we'll reset the filters, right? That's the most frustrating thing when you're trying to use LinkedIn and they lock you down. So that's a reason that you might want to use Sales Navigator. But let's talk a little bit about the filter. So as you can see on the right hand side, I think at the moment there's 24 filters, I think, if I'm not mistaken, on Sales Navigator. Give me a second, I just need to get some water. Probably about half of that on LinkedIn. So quite a bit more on Sales Navigator. And so what you need to do is think back to when you created the niche, right? So you choose that person in a very, very specific way, and then you say to yourself, all right, now based on who that person is, now I want to find them. Because remember, you've only got 100 people that you can send your connection requests to every single week, right? So you've got two things you must do. The first thing is that must be your ideal client, and then you want to try to make sure that they're actually active on LinkedIn. So using these filters is a great way to do it. So think about who that person is, and then based on that, you look at these filters, and then you can decide. The ones that I've got here are the ones that I find are the most important for us. So when you get the slides, just come back to these and use these. You'll find these are way more important than any of the others. For some of you, some of the others will have application, but obviously the keyword itself is a big one. When essentially you're going to be able to type literally anything into LinkedIn. The location is awesome. Now, what I will just tell you is if you've got Sales Navigator, you'll see there's 2 location filters, and you'll see the second one is Sales Nav only. This one is like it's the radius filter. So if you put your postal code in there, and then you nominate a radius around it. So let's say you put the postal code of where your office is, and you say, I ideally want to deal with people that are within a 50-kilometer radius of my office, because I want to be local, right? I need to get to my clients, or my clients need to get to me. You see, you can do that sort of thing on Sales Navigator, but not on LinkedIn. Seniority level, so this allows you to pick people like who are owners, partners, directors, etc. Right? Of companies. You've got the job title as well, which will allow you to also find the right people. The function, that's what do people do in the company. So sometimes it's specific. So maybe accountants are looking for the financial people at companies. Then you would use the function. Headcount is quite nice because it gives you an idea of the size of the company. Because one thing LinkedIn doesn't give us is revenue figures. So we don't know how much money people are earning. So you have to make some assumptions, right? So let's say you're wanting to deal with high net worth individuals, right? Well, somebody with a company who's got, let's say, 51 to 200 employees, who's been in business for more than 10 years, is more likely to be a high net worth individual than somebody who's a sole proprietor who's just started his company, right? So you need to think about your ideal client, and then you come and you apply this to the filters. Years of experience, again, that's a good one. And you can see LinkedIn lets you break it down into 1 year, between 1 and 2 years experience, 3 to 5, 6 to 10, and then 10 plus. All right. And then there's some other work that we can do in groups, which is probably a whole webinar on its own. It'll be a future webinar that we do. So guys, these filters are there. Just think about your ideal client, and then come and just apply the filters, and you'll find the right people. Okay, so just to give you a simple example. So in this example, I was looking for financial advisors in South Africa with up to 200 employees. And sorry, I've got my little, that banner across it. It said owners, partners, directors. And then I said who speak English, which I've realized in retrospect, you don't have to bother with that. It defaults to English anyway. And so what we found was that there were 1,510 results. And bear in mind, this was just one search that I did, right? Then I did another search for a client of mine. This one's a little bit different, right? So this one was for attorneys. here I just wanted people in the Johannesburg area. Didn't really mind how many employees they had, and I wanted them to be privately held or public companies, again, owners, partners, directors. But what I really wanted this time was I wanted business development people. And when we did this, we only got 23 people. So you might be saying, oh, that's terrible. No, it's not. My client was delighted, because what they did is they obviously tried to connect on LinkedIn. But what they did is they used LinkedIn to find the right people, and then they phoned them up and did other things. But the point here for you is that I want you to know that you can find anybody that you want, right, by mixing and matching these filters. As you add more filters, obviously you get a much tighter targeted list of people, but what happens is you also reduce the numbers. Okay, so sometimes it's a little bit of a balancing act. But guys, that's how you use the filters, just intelligently. Who's your ideal client? Let's look at the filters, let's make some assumptions, and let's find the right people. Okay, and then that of course is going to take you from wishful thinking, where you've got no idea who they are, to imagine that your ideal clients are those koi fish in a pet shop, and you literally just go in and you scoop them up like it's a sure thing. That's what the power of the LinkedIn filters, particularly Sales Navigator, actually helps you to do. And then of course we get into the connection phase. And so this is the magic that starts the process and gets you those 1 to 2 appointments every single week, right? And so the way that this works is obviously you send a connection request, and you're going to, as we said a little bit earlier, you'll probably get somewhere between 30 and 60% acceptance rate. And then when that happens, I tend to wait anywhere up to a week, and then I'm going to send a second message, right? And the second message is what we call a thanks for connecting message. It's not a sales message, right? So for those of you, and I'm pointing my finger at you, for those of you that send a connection request, and then when somebody accepts it 2 minutes later, you send them another message that says, hey, buy my stuff, or that says, hey, do you want to have a meeting? You need to stop that immediately. Like, that just irritates people no end, okay? That's not what this is about. Like, if you and me met at a party, let's just say we'd never met before, we meet at a friend's house, and I walk up to the drinks table, and you're there, and I introduce myself. I say, hey, I'm James. And you say, hey, I'm George. Hey, James, what do you do? I help people get clients and things. How about you, George? Hey, man, I'm a financial advisor. I might say, hey, how do you know Cindy, our host, right? Because that's how we talk in real life. The first thing that's coming out of George's mouth is not, hey, I'm George, I'm a financial advisor. Do you need your your profile and your policies reviewed? Like, that's not what we say. So don't do it on LinkedIn, okay? Start to build a little bit of a relationship, and then later on, then you can do some of this other stuff, right? Because you can have other messages, and now you can start to talk to people. And as you're doing that, obviously the goal is to get people familiar enough with you to get to the point where, remember, they've looked at your profile. Every time they see a message, they look at the profile, right? Eventually they get to know you, and if they like you and they need what it is that you're selling, then they reach out to you, and that's how you book those 1 to 2 appointments a week, right? It's a numbers game. I'm telling you now, if you send you 100 connection requests a week and you have a good profile, this works always. So your connection message, what I wanted to show you. So much earlier on, remember I said to you when we started, I said, I'm going to show you the carrot and the stick. So we spoke about the stick, which I don't want you to forget, right? If the stick is the reason you do this, good. But here's the carrot, right? So I want you to understand what has happened here. I've gone through this exact system that I've just taught you. I've sent connection requests to people. They have received the connection request. They've said, who's James? They've gone, they've looked at the profile, they've come back, they've accepted the connection request, and they have initiated the messages. So here's a couple of examples. So let's show you a simple connection request, right? Hi, I'm looking to connect with like-minded progressive accountants and bookkeepers, and came across your profile. I'd love to connect. So it's not rocket science, all right? We have improved this, I have to tell you, over time. So if you we can help you do a lot better. But as you can see, I used this for years and years, and it worked fine. And so this person writes back and says, I'm interested to know how your business model works. I'm interested in taking on new clients. So this is very typical of what happens, right? People are going to start to message you, and they start to ask you questions. And when you read the questions, it's obvious, right, to you that they need your help. And so you might have 1 or 2 conversations going backwards and forwards. And sometimes at the appropriate time, you just say, okay, well, listen, why don't we just have a meeting? whether you do a virtual meeting, most of us do today, or you actually do a proper coffee or something. Honestly, that's how easy it is to get a meeting. It's really not rocket science. Here's the Christmas example. Sometimes you're going to get this as well, right? So this person says to me, "Hi, James. Thanks very much for reaching out to me. The reason I've connected with you is due to the fact that my colleague and I have recently started our own little practice and have had some difficulty in sourcing clients. So now, rubbing my little grubby paws together, right? I'm very excited. And then it gets better, right? It gets even better. Goes on to say, we currently have 2 clients, which we acquired through a mutual person. However, other methodologies used, such as Facebook marketing, have had little traction. Like I said, now I'm very excited. So now you can see a person's giving you a lot of information. There's a lot of interest. And then for me, the next sentence is the key one, right? They go on to say, we believe that someone with your wealth of experience and expertise could aid us with our struggles. Now, understand, like, I don't know this person at this point. I've picked them out exactly like I've just taught you to do. They write this. There's only one place they could have found that. Right, on my profile. That's why the profile is important. The profile is like a sales page. It drives the process for you. That's what it does, right? And so here it comes. We would really like to schedule a call with you in the near future so we can have an in-depth conversation, right? That's the Christmas message, because when people say, "Hey, I want a call," like, you didn't have to work very hard for that one at all. A couple of others, I'm interested in sourcing new clients, and I see that you offer this as a service. What kind of clients do you recruit, and what payment do you expect, right? So you can see, again, very, very buyer type questioning. This one's great. "Hi, James, thanks for connecting with me. I'm really looking for new clients, please." Obviously, the messages you'll get will be in the line of the products and services that you provide, right? I'm just showing you my example, but that's what you get to look forward to. And the reason is because when you go through this process, what you're basically doing is you're taking people from being total strangers to taking you in as a confidant, right? So you're not their best mate yet, you're not their service provider yet, because they've seen your profile and they like what's going on. They're starting to trust you. And then, of course, the last bit is just to book the consultation, right? That's the enemy. That's our big enemy. I am busy. And this happens a lot. And that's why you need to follow up. Okay. You must follow up. So you sent your connection request, you sent your thanks for connecting, and then just follow up, right, with people, particularly those ones that show interest. Okay. Not like desperate, like not every single day, but, you know, like you normally would. Once a week, a couple of times a week, every month, etc., etc. You must follow up. That's how you go ahead and you actually book the business, right? Because that's the goal. Every one of these messages, the goal is to get them to the consultation. Okay. And so this really takes you from losing leads to literally making sure that you catch every single lead that is possible. So I've got quite a good idea of who's on this webinar. I know most of you are already first level connections. For those of you, there are a handful of you that are not, do me a favor, go ahead and connect with me on LinkedIn. And here's why. There's a couple of ways that I'm able to actually help you to put this process together. The first way is if you want to have a chat with me, I'm happy to have a free consultation with you just to talk you through some of the stuff and maybe even show you, the next level up to this. But you can see this is very, very effective. So the process is this, please, very important. So connect with me if not already done. Just message me on LinkedIn. It's quite simple, right? If we're using LinkedIn, let's use LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn, just say, "Hey, I was on the webinar. I'd like to chat." And please, please, please leave me your phone number, right? A mobile or a WhatsApp number. Like, the most frustrating thing is if I cannot get hold of you. So just do those 3 things. I've got quite a lot coming up. I'm taking some time off next week. So I've only got space for 5 of these right now. So it's kind of first come, first serve. So if you want it, just go let me know. Nice and simple. That being said, I know some of you want something more immediate. You might want something a little bit more tangible, and I've created something insane for you guys. Let me show you what that looks like. You can only get this today, by the way. So this is a webinar only special offer because you've taken the time to be there. So what I've done was kind of explain the context of this for you. What I've done is I've created an entire package where I know, because I work with so many people, I know what gets people over the line and where they fall down, and I want to make sure that you get your your ideal profile up. Okay, if for no other reason so that you're not losing clients. Right, it's a big mission of mine. I lost a business because I lost clients. Right, so it's like a big deal in my life. I don't want you losing clients. So what we've done is we have a full day workshop coming up. And in the workshop, I'm not going to cover every single thing, but we're going to do those big 5 that we spoke about. And particularly those first 2, I find people have a lot of difficulty in like choosing a niche and coming up with a message. So we're going to workshop it. So what that means is there's only 20 of us, by the way. So we're going to get into a Zoom group and we're going to teach you some stuff, and we're going to workshop it so that you get the key stuff done. Right? That's going to be the main thing. That being said, we're going to give you some other stuff as well. So the first thing is we're going to give you a very comprehensive workbook. So I've worked really, really hard to make this thing awesome. And in fact, if I just gave you this workbook, it's 79 pages long. It's not 79 pages of work, so don't freak out. It's just 79 pages because I've put tons of effort in. I've given you a lot of examples, and it's very, very easy to navigate. In fact, if I just gave you the workbook, you'd probably put up a half decent profile without anything else. We actually sell the workbook for $1,000. It's awesome. We'll give you the slide deck, obviously, as I will with this particular presentation. And then I've written a book. So I've published 5 books. One of them is on the profile specifically, and you know, today's is kind of based on that. So that should help a lot. And the book's nice because just go back. What's nice with the book is the table of contents is very detailed. So if you want to go back and quickly refresh something, it's actually quite easy to find it. And then what I've done, and this might appeal more to a lot of you as well, is I've created a video course. Let's call it the home study course. I hadn't intended it to be so long, but you know, I'm a thorough guy. I covered every base for you. It's 4 hours long. Again, you probably won't need all 4 hours, and I do go into explaining to you, you know, when you'll need what. But let's say you wanted to do LinkedIn profile head to toe. There's 4 hours of training. I've covered every single thing in there. So I know what's going to happen, right? Because I've done this a million times. Guys are going to come onto the one-day workshop. They're going to do a whole lot of stuff, and then they're going to have to still go back because you won't fill out the profile on the workshop. You'll fill out the worksheet so you've got the info. Then you still have to go to your computer, open your profile, copy, paste. Now that should be quick, but I know what people are like. They always want to tinker and add, and I'm not sure about this. That's when now, if you need to go back, you've got this video course. And some of you might say, you know what, I don't need the one-day course. I'm fine. Just give me this thing. Lock me in a room. Give me this to me. I'll go through. Because remember, you've got the videos. The workbook actually complements the videos very, very well. And what we've covered in the videos goes back to the workbook. So if you're that kind of guy, then awesome. You don't need to come on the workshop. just use this. And then for those of you who take me up on this offer, who do come, okay, and who actually do this, because you'll be amazed on how many people pay money and don't actually do it. But those of you that actually put in a decent effort, I will get on a call with you, a one-on-one call with you, and I'll give you an audit. We'll look through your profile, and if there are things that need tweaking, we'll tweak it. If there are questions that need answering, we will, so that you end up with the perfect profile. But this bonus only comes for action takers, this last one. And so if you want it, up top there is the URL, regularclients.com / sorry, it's a horrible URL. I should have made it simpler. LinkedIn-power-profile-the-1-day-workshop. I'll put a link in the chat in just a minute. So just quickly to run through it again, just to let you know. So obviously we've got the one-day workshop where we do the deep dive. That's valued at $3,000. We've got the fill in the blanks worksheet. We sell that alone, as I said, for $1,000. Give you the slides, also valued at $1,000. The video course, I think we sell that at $199 actually. So it's also an international product. So it's probably got a value of about $4,000. There's 26 comprehensive videos in there. I promise you, we cover everything. We don't leave anything unturned. A copy of the book, which makes life easy. It's a $300 value. And then, of course, for the action takers, I'll give you the profile audit, right? And my goal is to do as many of these audits as I can. I know it takes a lot of my time, and you might think it's insane, but I really do have a driving passion to help people to succeed because of my story that I told you about a little bit earlier. So the total value of all of that is $10,800 when it launches to the public. Because you guys will be the first, believe it or not. The price will be $3,000 for you guys for today and today only. the price of that is just $1,000. That's it. $1,000, you get all of that 10,800 Rand value. And as I said, my goal is I want to see as many of you as I possibly can. There are only 20, as I have said to you. Very important to know there's only 20 available, and the reason that there's only 20 available is because of the way we do it, right? So it's kind of intimate. It is in a Zoom environment where we can talk to each other. So it's not like this where it's a webinar where I'm talking and you're listening by and large. So it's very important that we don't make it too big, and so that's why we've limited it. And I suppose the big question is, when is it? I've given you guys ample time to plan for this, because I know some people need to budget. Honestly, $1,000 really isn't much. It's a throwaway number. It's my way of actually giving back a little bit to the profession. So Friday, 10th of May, we will be at it for a full day. There are only 20 spots, so jump on it now. Go ahead and book. In fact, let me just grab the link. 1 second. There you go. That should be in the chat. If you want to click on that instead of typing out that LinkedIn-power-profile-1-day-workshop, you can just jump into that, and you can jump into that. So go and do that. What I'm going to do now, for those of you, as I say, there's only 20. Go ahead, go grab that. For those of you that have any questions, now is the time to ask them. I know I went through a lot, but I really wanted to give you guys like really, really good value. I honestly want you to be able to take this and implement it, because like that social stupidity, I promise you guys, that is a thing, man. And it costs us a lot of clients. If for no other reason, just get your profile right for that. Even if you don't, want to do the other thing, which would be crazy if you didn't. But once you've gone to the trouble and you've kind of worked out who your ideal client is, it just makes so much sense to use it. Guys, thank you. I see a lot of you saying thanks. Thank you very much. I always appreciate it when you take some time out of your day to spend time with me. I don't take that for granted. It often is a big deal. And hopefully I was able to give you amazing value today, and continue to do so. So keep watching. We're going to do a bunch more webinars. The next one will take this up a step. So today was just teaching you the basics. Next time we'll show you how to get 5 appointments plus every week. We'll show you the full system. We added some email and we do some other really, really cool stuff. So keep your eye out for that. That should be coming soon. And hopefully I'm going to see a lot of you on some one-on-ones. I'm going to see a lot of you on the one-day workshop. And the thing I really want is to be doing those audits with you, because that means you guys have actually really put the effort in, and you're well on your way to having a great power profile and actually generating clients. So guys, thanks a lot. Chat soon. Okay, bye for now.